We bring in our good friend, Dr. Joe Congini, Sports Medicine Center at Akron Children's Hospital. Good morning, Dr. Joe.
Hi, Ray. How you doing this week?
I'm doing terrific. Just talked to one of your good buddies, Butch Reynolds, a couple of minutes ago on the show.
I love Butch, another person to make Northeast Ohio proud.
Oh, yeah, there is no doubt about it. Not only athletically, but what he's done with the kids and working with them through all the years as well. But what do you have on your mind today?
Well, you know what? I mean, I have two things that are just percolating around at my office and people are asking me about. And I'm going to just touch on both of them and maybe get your thoughts a little too. I mean, one is the Tom Brady incident. And this guy just seems to always be in the spotlight, doesn't he, some way or another? He's done some amazing, amazing things. Isn't it? I mean, how long is he going to play? He's 43. Is he going to play till he's 50?
He might.
I mean, really? But, you know, so the 43-year-old GOAT of quarterbacks, greatest of all time, and this week the big issue is about the fact that he played with a medial collateral ligament tear, an MCL tear. We know it well. It's a very common sport injury, particularly football injury, particularly quarterbacks and people. You get hit on the side of the leg really hard, bend inward, tear the MCL, and it's an injury, though, that's fairly forgiving, and people do play with partial and sometimes pretty significant tears of the MCL, and we can get them back out there playing. Part of the reason is it's really a good joint, a good ligament to be able to brace, and they can get a lot of support with the brace and their strength, their own natural strength, and they can play through a lot of things. But the story is, and kind of the funny thing with Brady is he does his own thing so much. Apparently, he didn't even have an exit exam when he left the Patriots in 2019, and he may well have had the injury at the end of 2019. And then there's people around the Buccaneers saying they never even knew he had the injury at all in 2020, and that he's got his own team that keeps him well, kind of a wellness team. Everybody knows that, and he keeps a lot of that stuff somewhat secret. And finally, I guess this week it came out that he played pretty much the whole season with the torn MCL. I even saw one side story saying that there may be some issues and problems for the Buccaneers and elsewise because you have to report these injuries, and it wasn't reported at all last year that he had the injury. But I have a feeling, this is my opinion on this one, Ray, dealing with a lot of MCLs in my 30-plus year career, is it's impressive that he was able to. He's tough enough to play the entire year at such a high level, set records, and win a Super Bowl. It's impressive, but it's not impossible. We have people with MCLs that are pretty significant, again, with bracing and other things, that are able to play through the year. As soon as the Super Bowl was over, with a couple of weeks after that, he then had the repair surgery done. It'll be interesting to see how at 43 his knee takes to having this surgery done and having that MCL fixed. But I think it was one of the things just to add to the legend of Tom Brady a little bit more. A lot of other players have gotten now in the last 2 days. I read several stories from others who said, hey, I've played with MCLs, and you can play through MCLs. And a lot of other players, professional, college, elsewise, have commented on this. So I think it's impressive but not impossible, but it certainly adds to the legend of who is Tom Brady.
Joe, I've seen some, and I guess it's probably the degree of it, but I saw some MCL tears where guys are out 5 to 6 months, and then I've seen MCL tears where they're out 4 to 5 weeks.
You're exactly right. You know that from your sports medicine course that you run here on Wednesday mornings with me. You know a lot of that. And you know by watching as closely as you do, is it is a lot the degree of the injury. And there was a lot floating around. I probably read 6 or 7 articles last night. Some said that, complete tear. But much of the time what ends up happening is it can be kind of a cumulative thing where it kind of continues to tear more as the season goes on and things like that. And so it is directly related to the degree. But even with a pretty significant tear of the ligament, there's athletes that play with it. So it's not quite not quite as impressive and legendary as I think it's being made out to be, although I do not know the degree or anything like that. And it was just interesting when I read what some of the other players now are saying 48 hours, 72 hours later, is that they've played with MCLs too. So you're exactly right. It is a very variable injury depending on how bad it is, how new it is. The fact that he had the MCL, probably had them before in his career, he probably was left with a very loose knee to begin with, because he keeps tearing it and it heals looser and looser after you've injured the MCL. And that's really the problem for our high school kids. If they keep tearing it and it gets looser, they end up needing to be in a surgeon's office getting it tightened up and fixed.
All right, Joe. Great stuff again, my friend. Good chatting with you again. We'll catch up next week.
I had one quick thing, Ray, is on a sport I've never covered in 25-plus years with you, is MMA, man. Everybody's asking me about Conor McGregor. What's the deal with Conor McGregor? So you know how we see stress fractures all the time at sports medicine. He had stress fractures before the fight. He goes into a full contact fight in the octagon and goes on to a compound fracture. And I don't think you could think of anything that would be more stressful to somebody with a microfracture or a hairline fracture than a stress fracture, and he ends up breaking it through all the way. So a lot of people were asking me MMA, and there it is. We talked about some MMA today.
Okay, that's a first for us.
That's the first.
All
Thanks,
right.
Ray.
Thanks, Joe. Dr. Joe Congini, Akron Children's Hospital Sports Medicine Center.